Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What is going on, Lock Shoppers? Happy Friday to you all, and welcome to our NFL Best Bets show. Huss and Jake waiting on Patty. He'll join us at some point, and we are hearing good things on our pal Dustin Nielsen. Hope to have Dusty back in the Lock Shop next week, and I haven't talked to him, but I do believe he's going to try and gut through the West Final here in the Peg tomorrow, and be back and hopefully better than ever coming up on Monday. I figure he might be traveling right now. But if he does fire us picks, I'll let you know, because he did go 4-0 from his deathbed last week. So he goes up against all the adversity. We've got a lot to get to. Obviously, we've got to get to our best bets. We're going to talk a little bit about I'll give you my final picks for the CFL. And just for anyone watching in and around Winnipeg, we have just a massive day tomorrow. It really is Super Saturday. The 13-1 Winnipeg Jets taking on the Dallas Stars at 2 p.m. And then 5:30 on the south side of Princess Auto Stadium. Bombers, Riders for a trip to the Grey Cup. Jake, I would say, you know what? And to top it all off, it's freaking gorgeous outside. We were kind of thinking, like, it could be cold at this point of year, but it's not. Everything's coming up to Peg right now. And just quickly, how about my guy, Connor Hellebuck? Just happy to be living in the Connor Hellebuck era. 40th career shutout last night, back-to-back. Got it done against the Colorado Avalanche. And it was a good night all around, Jake, because we covered on the Bengals. We got the Jets win. And I got to give you props, first of all, for your technical savvy to put together that filter or whatever you did on the TikTok. But your first ever bet builder video banged up, what was it, plus 850?
Yeah, plus 850 yesterday. A filter that already existed out there. We kind of just found it and used it as our own. So the build-a-bet gave me a running back touchdown. I went with Chase Brown, just a little bit better juice than Derrick Henry. He scored the first touchdown of the game, so that was in no sweater. And then I'm sitting there with the Mark Andrews touchdown, and he's wide open on that first Ravens touchdown. And so is Bateman, and he finds Aguilar. I apologize. Finds Aguilar instead, and I'm like, oh, my God, that was our opportunity. We're not going to get the Mark Andrews touchdown. And sure enough, he gets it a little bit later in the game, and then I'm sitting there sweating the Bengals plus 6.5, and it was not easy by any means, Huss. I mean, coming down the stretch, Ravens they go for two. It made sense why they went for two. I'm hoping they miss it. They don't. They're up 7. I'm sitting there with a 6.5 in my pocket thinking, why didn't I just buy that extra point, have at least a touchdown in my pocket? But Joe Burrow and the boys found a way to get it in the end zone. I don't know if you saw that Yoshivas first down on 4th and 10. Like, he just got the line to gain just to extend the drive. And you know what? We talked about it earlier this week, Huss, on Wednesday. Like, Burrow goes for 2. They don't get it. I don't know. I think if you're a Bengals fan, you're like, that was the right play, because you don't want to get to an overtime situation where you don't touch the ball again. You have a chance to win the football game. I know there were still 30 seconds on the clock, but you can take a lead that late in the game. I think it's the right move. I know the Bengals lost, and they're kind of they're treading up water upstream, as people say, but I don't know. I think it's the right move, especially against a divisional opponent like the Ravens.
Well, in a game like that where there were so many points, I mean, both offenses were clicking the way they were. I'm sort of with you. I mean, I said on Tuesday's show, from a Chiefs perspective, I was relieved when they brought the kicker out in a similar situation at the end of the Monday Nighter. Listen, I think the Bengals got sort of screwed. Like, there was easily 3 different penalties on that 2-point convert that weren't played. Yeah. And the thing with the Ravens, and again, I don't want this to get into a Chiefs thing, because people are going, oh, a team gets all the calls. Well, you know what? Sometimes there's actually a bunch of penalties actually taking place. And the Ravens were that entire drive. Like, we talked about the Osivas 4th and 10 catch. It should have never been that situation in the first place. I mean, Joe Burrow was getting smacked in the head on almost every time he got back. They missed a face mask. And then that final play, I'm sort of with Mark. That was was a little egregious. And listen, I get it. There's some teams that get those calls. I think Cincinnati's done enough. I mean, everyone should get them. I mean, the game should be called evenly, but I just really thought that they were overlooking some stuff that Baltimore did. And if you're a Bengals fan right now, or you're Zach Taylor or Joe Burrow, I think you justifiably can feel that you sort of got the raw end of it last night at such a crucial point in the game.
Well, in a game of that height too, right? I mean, like you think about the NHL when they go to the playoffs, and we talk about when they get into overtime, we always say, the refs have put the whistles away. Like, they're just going to let the game decide itself. Can't really do that in the NFL. Like, a penalty is a penalty, you know? Like, you can't really just say, oh, well, it's a big game and a big moment. We're just going to let them play it out, because that means you could just do anything if you're the Ravens. I mean, there's a hold there on I think it was Gesicki. Even you could. I think Burrow also got hit on the same play there in the 2-point convert. Like, just one of those. And like you said, it was all drive, and they persevere. They get down. They go for two, and then there's no laundry on the field there after the 2-point conversion. And you're just like, that's the part I could understand if you're a Bengals fan. That's the part I'd be upset about. But I think they still made the right moves leading up to that point. The biggest turning point in that game was the Chase Brown fumble that led to the Ravens getting the ball back in Bengals territory and going to work, because the Bengals were really in control of that game. I think they started the game on like 11 or 12 play drive, walked down the field, like looked really dialed in. Burrow looked really solid. They score. They get a 3-and-out from the Ravens. They get the ball back. It looked like they were going to drive again and then stalled out. Like, I don't know. It felt like the Bengals not only should have covered, but should have won that football game. And I think if you're looking back as the Bengals, there's a few games this season where you're like, we are so damn close. I think Chase said it too. Like, to be playing as good as Burrow and Chase are playing right now, 238 yards, 3 touchdowns for Chase, by the way. To be playing as good as those two guys are playing right now, and to only be 4-6, it's a rough year for these guys.
Well, and a win last night, we kind of set it up yesterday, would have been so massive for Cincinnati. I mean, they would have come within one game of Baltimore. And now, I mean, realistically, to make the playoffs, they're going to have to go a minimum of 5-2. I guess there's an outside chance they could get in at 9-8, but you probably need to be 10-7. And that means going 5-1 the rest of the way. We were so close on our partner parlay too, and we got the Deontay Johnson 1 catch. We needed 2, but they're working him in slowly. I thought he'd get a little more action yesterday, but man, the Joe Burrow. And again, I was at the arena watching the Jets and Avalanche. I'm following this on my phone, and Joe Burrow had, I think, 9 completions in the first 8 minutes of the football game. So you knew that he was going to be slinging it. They did a heck of a job with it. Tough game, tough loss for Cincinnati. And just while I bring up, let's just take a quick look at what's up for Cincinnati going forward. So they're at the Chargers next week, home to the Steelers, at the Cowboys, at the Titans, at the home to the Browns, home to the Broncos, at the Steelers. You know what? Let's say I think they could get to 10-7, actually. I mean, they could go 6-1 on this final schedule. I mean, I think you got to beat Chargers, Cowboys, Titans, Browns, Broncos, and then get at least one against the Steelers, at least a split against the Steelers. So it'll be interesting to see what their playoff odds are going to be after the weekend when we get the futures back up on Tuesday.
It feels like we say it every week too, Huss. Like, that next week game against the Chargers, especially with, like, Pittsburgh's not an easy game, but like there are some cupcakes, I'd say, coming down the stretch. Dallas has not been good. Tennessee, we know where they're at. They have, Cleveland is a divisional game, but they are better than Cleveland. And Denver, I think we saw last week, not as good as necessarily the record shows. So that game against the Chargers next week could define the entire season for the Cincinnati Bengals. I know it's crazy to say, and we've been saying it week after week, but if you can't beat the Chargers next week, it's going to be an uphill battle, because 2 games against Pittsburgh, like you said, a split's a good spot, but not if you lose to the Chargers. Like, you're almost in win out mode, right?
And to be honest, they need to win that. Like, you're right. They have to beat the Chargers and get to 5-6. 4-7 would be a death knell. And then they've got the Steelers at home. I mean, that's the game you have to have. At that point, if you're 6-6 and then you get Cowboys, Titans, Browns, I mean, then you're probably 9-6. And then again, you got a home game against the Broncos, probably to clinch a playoff spot. And I'll tell you what, this Bengals team, you get T. Higgins back, the way Joe Burrow is balling out right now, that would be a very, very frisky 7 seed. And who knows? We could have. Here's a little foreshadowing. We were talking about how amazing these 2 Ravens-Bengals games have been so far this year. We could have a third matchup. I mean, it's very plausible to think that the Ravens end up as the 2 seed and the Bengals slide in as the 7 seed, or potentially, I guess, a 3-6 if they do get to 10 wins. Because I'll tell you what, the 2 games these teams have played have been the games of the year. And I think it always seems to just work out for the NFL. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see these teams play again one more time if the Bengals can take care of business in these next couple of weeks before they get to the soft part of the schedule.
Oh, yeah, and listen, another thing, you talk about games of the year. Like, I talked myself out of that over. Spency 5 cents, he said, nice call, tease the over down to 46, Bengals plus 13.5. Yeah, that was another winner last night, really in no sweat territory. But early on in that game, the points weren't coming as I expected them to, and I'm kind of sitting there like, okay, I'm glad I didn't go chase the over because of what we saw last time around. Sure enough, I look up and it's 28-28, and, the Ravens are driving. They score. They get it to 35, and I guess it was – yeah, anyways, it was 35-34 was the final score, right? So pretty crazy, like big second half points in that game. If I can just pull it up here, I had it up a second ago. Fourth quarter, 34 points, Huss. Imagine you're sitting there with the under in your pocket and you're like, oh, look at me, I'm a sharp. And sure enough, 34 points in the fourth, and it clears the over by a mile, 69 points last night. So, pretty crazy game. I'm not mad as a fan. I do like Joe Burrow. I think the league is better when the Bengals are good and when they're in the playoffs. But it might just be one of those years where you're just sitting there like, what are you going to do? And now you're coming up on a situation where if you don't make the playoffs this year, Jamar Chase needs his money. This was a whole thing coming into the season. Like, I want the extension. I want to get paid. Bengals don't like dishing out the money. They already had to dish out money to Burrow. I think T. Higgins is on a franchise tag right now, and you got to pay Jamar Chase. And guess what? Jamar Chase is earning his money right now. 238 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was not the problem last night for the Bengals.
The Ravens they do not have an answer for Jamar Chase. I'll tell you what, if we see these teams play again, that could be quite problematic if they do get Higgins back and they're in a better situation a little later on. Anyways, hell of a Thursday nighter. We'll get to the best bets in just a minute, put together a little house callers parlay as well. Before we do that, quick hit on the CFL. The lines have been pretty steady all week long, and we haven't really seen any change. The Argos are 2-point underdogs and plus 115 on the money line. And then the game that we're all fired up here in the peg, Bombers 3.5-point favorites over the Riders. I'll be honest. I mean, listen, I'm going to take Winnipeg. That's a bit of a homer pick. They proved it before. They will be ready. They've got the home crowd. They've got the extra week of rest. But the Riders are absolutely no joke. But I do like the Argos, and I've sort of been talking about the Argos for the last little while. And for me, it's a money line play, plus 115. So actually what I did was, don't forget, everyone, you still got the 20% win boost on this one. So instead of worrying about the 3.5 points for the Bombers, I just put together a 2-game parlay, money line, Argos plus 115, Bombers minus 217. It gets it up to plus 214, and then use the 20% win boost on it. So that's the way I'm playing it this week. I'm just looking to set up the Grey Cup matchup. Argos plus 115, Bombers minus 217. I won't have to worry about the spread. We'll just be looking for the Bombers to win the game tomorrow. But I wouldn't be surprised if, that line potentially even gets to 3. I think that Saskatchewan's going to have some steam coming in with some folks that are watching and deciding to bet on it on Saturday. But certainly, I don't think it's going the other way for the Bombers. It was, I think, minus 115 yesterday on the 3.5. and it's now to just straight minus 110 on either side. So 2 o'clock Central for the Alouettes and Argos, and then 5:30 Central here for the Rough Riders and the Bombers. Hey, just before we get to the best bets, your Leafs are in action tonight. What are you? How are you feeling for this Leafs Wings game tonight? Coming off that nice win over the Bruins earlier this week.
Yeah, I mean, business as usual. I believe it's Hall of Fame weekend, so that's why they kind of have the doubleheader here, Friday, Saturday. No Matthews again. They've confirmed he's going to be out for a second straight game, but for whatever reason, this team tends to play well without their star captain in the lineup. It's shown over the last few years, and I'm sure they'll show it on the broadcast again tonight, the record without Matthews. So it's next man up mentality. I spoke about Matthew Nyes the other night. He had a great game last time out and Tuesday night. It's a time for Marner to have, even on the broadcast last week, they're like, Marner's had a really nice game. I don't know what it is about Matthews being out of the lineup, but it's just like I said, next man up. I don't have necessarily a read on the game. Obviously, they're a pretty big favorite, minus 192. Like, you're not going to play them on the money line.
I'm just thinking about who's going to score the Leaf goals with Austin out. Willie Stiles minus plus 133. Tavares plus 161. Marner's 2-1. And then you go down, your boy Nyes plus 215.
Yeah, that's probably where I'd get my eyes on Matthew Nyes. He's playing first power play now. Even when Matthews was back healthy, he was playing first power play. I think he scored on the power play against the Bruins on Tuesday. I just want to see how he's been here the last couple games. He's a force, man. Like, he's got 7 goals on the season. Sorry, I'm just going to his game log here. Yeah, he went, 3 straight goals in the end of October there. He had a couple games out of goals in St. Louis, Minnesota, then scored again against Boston. I think with Matthews out, you need guys to score goals. Plus 215 is not a bad number for old Matty Nyes to get back on the score sheet in the goal column. So I don't mind that. I don't even mind him at a point. If you want to take a bit of juice, minus 138 for a point for Matthew Nyes. He's going to get ice time. He plays every scenario. He's a power play guy now. He's a penalty kill guy. He plays on the top line with Marner and Domi. So, yeah, just keep your eye there on Matty Nyes. His number's going to get, it's good. It's not going to get much better, I'd say, as he continues on this season.
I'm just going to throw in here anytime. We've got Pittsburgh and Washington going up in another game. Oh, by the way, just quickly back to last night. Hellebuck is the man. Back-to-back shutouts, all of that. You know what else ended up cashing last night? WST parlay didn't, just because there was only the one goal. But the Nate McKinnon under half a point, plus 490 last night. I was thinking about these numbers are so high, Jake. I was trying to do the math in my head while I'm sitting there watching the game. I'd have to go back to his game log last year and just see how many games Nate McKinnon actually did not get a point. And, with the numbers as high as they are, if you bet him at just under 5-1 to not get a point every night, I wonder how you'd end up doing through 82 games. The guy is just such a beast. I mean, he's right there with Connor McDavid. As much as it was scaring the hell out of me, he played like over 10 minutes in the third period too, like basically never left the ice. I got excited about the Four Nations watching him and Cale Makar out there, seeing what they can do. And by the way, while we're talking about the NHL picks, if you haven't already, when you're on CoolBet, log in and then go to the promotions tab, click on the Four Nations, and make sure you opt in for the raffle. Tickets, hotel, airfare to the championship game of the Four Nations. Some lucky cool better is going to win that every $20. Once you opt in, every time you bet $20 in the sports book on the NHL, you will get a raffle. But every time Pittsburgh and Washington play, I always love the matchup between Crosby and Ovi. I don't know how many more of these we're going to get, Jake. We should get a little boosted parlay, Sid and Ovi both to score tonight.
Yeah, I have it ready. It just hasn't hit the exclusives yet, but I did
figured
prep
you'd
one.
be on it.
I prepped a few. I prepped both of them to get a point. A little, obviously, not as great of odds. I think it was, it'll probably be around even money or maybe a touch over even money. both of them to get a goal, which should be up around 5-1, I think, and then both of them for 2 points. Pretty juicy, but I think it'll be up around like 8-1. So check the exclusives. We're gonna have those up at some point here. Kind of just working through the morning here with Patty and figuring out what we're gonna get on board. I know the DJ Den has a parlay ready for me, so we'll get to that probably after the show. I was just looking through the McKinnon thing here. Looks like close to like about 10 games, Huss. Like he played 80 games last season, only about 10 games. The one thing that the difference, and people are gonna hate this, the one difference between McKinnon and McDavid right now is one has a Stanley Cup and one doesn't, right? So that's the big factor there with those two guys.
Hey, you know what? Guess what? No one has a cup until they get one. I mean,
yeah, I know.
I'll take Austin Matthews on my team any day. He hasn't won a damn thing. I just like
to tease the Oiler fans. So
yeah, get people going in the chat.
The chat's going to be mad at me now.
I guess Oilers off until tomorrow. A couple other interesting games tonight. The Wild, they're taking on the Ducks. They just played last night against San Jose and obviously won. And the Golden Knights, coming off that win in Edmonton, they're in Seattle taking on the Kraken. Don't mind Vegas at -139 after they finally got a win on the road. They're playing some pretty good hockey as of late. So that's what we got for NHL tonight. And just mentioning the CFL and the NHL, check out the combo cards or the exclusives later on tonight or tomorrow morning. We will be putting together the little Peg City parlay, Bombers to win and Jets to win tomorrow. And the guys will pop a little boost in. So if you want to ride with me on that, everything seems to be going my way right now. Chiefs in overtime. The Jets keep on winning. The Bombers, I don't want to jinx anything, but hopefully we can keep riding it at least through tomorrow and get the Bombers to the Grey Cup. All right, let's get to our best bets for the week in the National Football League. As I said, shout out to Dusty, who went 4-0 last week. I've had a couple middling 2-2 weeks. Maybe I'll be inspired by my partner coming off the mat with a perfect week and come out with some winners. Going through the games, I'll give you a quick rundown of the lines here. And for people that are driving around or listening on iHeart, obviously these are all available at coolbet.com. We started off with a Europe game. I believe this one's in Germany. And wow, are the Germans in for a treat. You've got the 2-7 Giants versus the 2-7 Panthers. Two of the worst teams in the NFL going at it. That's a early morning game. And the Giants are 6.5-point favorites. We'll talk about that one a little bit later on. Your Patriots, after that tight one against Tennessee last week, in Chicago to take on the Bears. Bears really threw up a dud last week against the Cardinals, losing by 20. But Chicago's 6-point favorites at home against New England. We've got the Buffalo Bills laying 4 on the road in Indianapolis against the Colts. The Vikings were 6.5-point favorites. That's now 7 against the Jags. I guess if you want to take it to 6.5, you can still get 6.5 at -116. So you got a couple options there. We've got the Chiefs, 7.5-point favorites against the Broncos, which means they'll probably win by 6. They never seem to cover the number. I will not be taking the Chiefs, but I certainly love that money line number. Although, well, talk about it in a bit. We'll see whether you're on this game. I do put it this way. Denver worries me a little bit more this year than they have in recent years when the Chiefs have just absolutely owned them. Really like what their defense is doing right now. And it does seem like Sean Payton's kind of getting Bo Nix going in the right direction. Although they did sort of get exposed last week by a good team in the Broncos. The Saints are far from a good team, and that's why they're a home dog. 3.5-point underdogs at home to their division-leading Atlanta Falcons. Sounds like Christian McCaffrey is back, and the 49ers are now 6.5-point favorites over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Pittsburgh is in Washington. You can get plus money at +2.5. If you want the 3 on Pittsburgh, it's +119. If you're taking the Commanders, +101, even money on the -3. And if you want to take the minus 2.5, it's minus 119. So essentially, depending on what side you're on, you might want to figure out whether you're looking at -3 or -2.5.
Huss, I think if you like the Commanders, you could also play money line. -143 is a bit juicy, but if you like them and don't want to worry about the points, the money line's right there in front of you.
You know what? It's a good point. I mean, the difference between the -119 on the 2.5 to the -143 isn't too much. And well, as I said, we'll talk about this game for sure as we get into the picks. Chargers are back at home. They're playing the Titans. LA 7.5-point favorites. Been a while, I think, since the Chargers have been that big of favorites. And the Jets, with a little extra rest after their Thursday night comeback last week, are in Arizona, take on the Cardinals, who suddenly got hot. The Jets laying 2 on the road, 2-point favorites. Arizona plus 103 as a home dog. What's left of the Dallas Cowboys will host the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles -7.5. Who I haven't even looked. Who's the starting quarterback now for Dallas now that Dak is up?
I believe it's Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush. Okay, he's still there. Whatever happened to Trey Lance?
That's a great question. I honestly, Huss, I don't even know how to answer that question. I have no idea what's happened to Trey Lance. I'm going to go look at the depth chart right now for the Cowboys as we're talking about it. He is the next in line. So I guess he's the third stringer there. They got Dak out, Cooper Rush starter. Trey Lance is the second string now. So, maybe we'll see some Trey Lance action depending on how that game goes.
Yeah, I guess. Look forward to that, Cowboy fans. We've got the Lions in Houston taking on the Texans. Detroit -3.5. And then the Monday Nighter, which we'll probably leave for Monday. But great one. Just a 1-point spread. Rams, a slight favorite over the Miami Dolphins, -1 or -116 on the money line. All right, Jake. Well, I guess it's just the two of us. So let's roll it. We'll go through all of our picks. What's your favorite one on the board this week?
Yeah, I just want to get to this first. So Patty and I were talking about picks, and I assumed he was coming on. I completely forgot. We spoke earlier in the week. He's at NLL Media Day right now. So he had a half day. He's at NLL Media Day. I'm like, why is he not answering? Like, where? I was getting a little worried. And then I'm like, you know what? I think that he had something on Friday. So that's where Patty is. He did send me his picks. I'll start with one of mine, and I'll jump over to his kind of as we work through the slate here. So I do have the Niners on my card, -6.5. I'm a little concerned about this game with the way Tampa has played, even without Evans and Godwin. But I think it's one of those things where the Niners are coming off the bye. It looks like CMC is going to come back and play. I don't know if it's going to be in full capacity, but I think that jolt that he gives to the offense will be really, really good for that team. So they're working towards full health. Debo is also practicing this week. And, there's concern for Tampa. Baker has not practiced the last 2 days. I just checked the report. Jordan Whitehead hasn't practiced the last 2 days. Mike Evans still not practicing. Bucky Irving has been limited at practice. Like, when it rains, it pours with these injuries for Tampa. I know they're at home. I know 6.5 tends to be a big number. But I think Shanahan off the bye is going to have these guys ready. I think they're going to be juiced up with knowing McCaffrey's back, hopefully close to full health. It seems like he's not going to have any setbacks leading into the weekend. So I'm going to take the Niners. I know it's a big number, but I think, this team at full capability has blowout potential. I think, Tampa, what they did last week, it was an emotional game. They come down the stretch. They have a chance to go ahead. They choose not to. They tie the game. They don't get the ball back. I think spirits aren't too high in Tampa Bay right now. And I think it's kind of the opposite for the Niners. So I got them at -6.5.
Listen, that was one of my top 2 picks as well. So I'll just add in, and I think it's a nice little starting point for the partner parlay. I love the Niners here. I'm totally with you. I think the boost to McCaffrey is going to be massive for San Francisco. And don't underestimate the wear and tear of that game in Arrowhead on Monday night, going to overtime for Tampa. I think this is a brutal spot for them, even though they're at home right now, in addition to all the injuries that they're dealing with coming out of that football game. So I get it now at 6.5. I mean, it's moved this way. I don't think it's going to stop. I could see this being 7 by the time the kicks off tomorrow, especially once people start getting more good news about Christian McCaffrey. So yes, San Francisco -6.5. Gitch, I know you're taking the points with Tampa. We're on the other side in the lock shop right now. So San Fran for the two of us. Where's Patty's favorite pick off the bat?
Yeah, from what he sent me, he's got top of his card Saints plus 3.5. Listen, I mean, it's been pretty gross for the Saints. They're 7 in a row they've lost now. Divisional game, I think it was a tight game last time I remember, right? I think they had a lead late, and Younghoe Koo hit a monster kick that kind of swung back in and just won them the game. I don't know. This might be a coach firing thing, right? You get the interim boost off the Dennis Allen firing last week. It's a divisional game. You're at home if you're the Saints. If you're going to show any heart, it's got to be against a division rival like the Falcons. I don't know if it's going to be on my card necessarily, but it is on Patty's card, so he's taking the Saints. It is nice to get that hook, Huss. If you do like the Saints, getting them at 3.5 is a lot better than getting them at 3 or at 2.5. And I believe that's kind of where the number sat the last time around these two teams played. It was right around the 2.5 number. I think that 2.5 ended up being like a crazy scenario. If you got 1.5 with the Falcons and 2.5 with the Saints, you had a double winner there.
Yes, because it was a 2-point game. It ended up being a 2-point game. This is insanity. This team just lost to the Carolina Panthers last week. Chris Olave's doubtful. With a gun to my head, I don't think I could pull the trigger on taking the Saints right now. But good on Pat for having the stones to go in a very different way. Listen, I mentioned that we're on the San Francisco 49ers to start off. Next up, I think my next favorite pick, and again, this is another favorite, but I mean, you can't go wrong backing good teams that put up tons of points. And the Detroit Lions are that team for me right now, minus 3.5. Now, there is the potential. I just see that Nico Collins is coming off the IR and he's returned to practice and he could be good to go. And listen, that's going to be massive for Houston. The connection between him and CJ Stroud is right up there with the best in the league between a quarterback and a receiver. And Nico Collins really does change the game when he's in for the Texans. And we saw what they were like, without him and Stephon Diggs last week. But I just think the Detroit Lions are in another weight class, and no disrespect to Houston, but they're back inside of a dome where the Lions love to run. If Houston wants to cover this number, I think they're going to have to put up 30-plus points because Detroit seemingly does that every single week. I guess if you want to screw with this number a little bit, you could take it. I'm just going to look at what 2.5 is. Yeah, 2.5 is already to 164. I guess you could bet it at 3 minus 139 and have the potential if it is just a 3-point game. But I'm not worried about it. Minus 111 and minus 3.5 for Detroit. I often like the home dogs, but I do not want to stand in front of the freight train that is the Lions right now. I want to get on it and ride it. I'm taking Detroit.
Well, listen, Huss, I like the home dogs as well. Just so you know, I did have this stat posted on the CoolBet socials. Since week 5, NFL road favorites 24-9 against the spread. Don't be afraid to take a road favorite. If you like a road favorite, don't be afraid to take them. They've been covering at a pretty high rate since week 5. You'll be happy to know as well, or maybe not so happy to know, I'm on the Lions, and Patty also had the Lions on his card at 3.5. So that seems like it's going to work its way into the partner parlay as well. A few things I wrote down. I said if you can't beat them, join them. I've kind of faded the Lions here. They cover spreads constantly. Dan Campbell and Jared Goff have been covering at a historic rate. The Lions, 40-15 against the spread over their last 55 games. That's 73%, Huss. If you're fading this team, you're losing a good amount of money. And don't be scared to be a square. This is also what else I wrote. Goff 4-0 against the spread this season as the public side. He's 14-2 against the spread over the last 2 seasons and 21-4 against the spread over the last 3 years when listed as the public side. So even if you're worried about the public money being on the Lions, it don't matter because Jared Goff, Dan Campbell, those guys get it done. They're 7-1 against the spread this season. Best team against the spread in the NFL. I'm also on the Lions. Patty's on the Lions. So that should be an easy add to the
the faves are eating right now. Favorites went 13-1 last week straight up. The only favorite to lose was the Saints, losing by 1 to the Panthers. I mean, every single teaser possibly pretty much covered. It was one of those days where the favorites really eat. And I mean, we kind of know we know a lot more about who and what these teams are right now. And Detroit is steamrolling for that number 1 seed in the NFC. I think Houston still wins their division, but this is a tough spot for them. It's great that they get Nico Collins back. I just do not think that is going to be enough. So we're looking good on Detroit. We are looking good on San Francisco. My next pick is I can't wait for this Washington Pittsburgh game. And I know that there is, I'm not sure that the books have entirely caught up with Washington. I mean, they have covered, I don't have it in front of me. I've written it down.
7-1-1.
7-1-1. I was going to say 7-2. I mean, they've just been phenomenal with these spreads. And listen, they're playing at home. But, man, I think I'm going to take the points with the Steelers in this one. And I'll take it at 3 with the minus 119. I think this is going to be a really challenging game for Washington to do what they've done offensively, like they've done to so many other teams this year. And I'll tell you what, I don't put much stock into the Mike Williams. Not even sure how much he'll be into the game. But I'll tell you what, Russ is feeling it right now, and I think this Pittsburgh team is going to be able to put up points against Washington. And this is a game that their defense can really step up. Pittsburgh knows they're in a unique situation. Most of the other teams, 6-2, you're like, oh, man, we're great. It's all good. They're in this division. I'm sure they know what we just talked about with that Cincinnati schedule, knowing that they've got those 2 games. And Pittsburgh's schedule in the second half of the season is absolutely murderous. So this is a huge opportunity for Pittsburgh to get a 7th win. I actually think I might do a little sprinkle or put it in with a couple of other money line plays. But I'm going to take the Steelers +3 in Washington. I know we're all gaga about Jaden Daniels, but I think we're going to look for a nice day from Russ and the Pittsburgh defense to step up. Washington due for a loss. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And also due to be on the other side of the spread after being basically winning consistently since the start of the year.
Huss, I don't know if we're going to even get to any of the other games because I think you have access to my computer. I also have Steelers +3 on my card. So this is going towards, I don't know, I doubt you have my 4th pick, but I also have Steelers +3. So far, me and you are dead on right now. Steelers coming off the bye. Tomlin's 13-4 straight up off the bye. I'm probably playing the money line as well, like you mentioned. Against rookie QBs, he's 26-6 straight up. And as an underdog, 65%. You look at the underdog stats of coaches, any coach in the NFL right now, he's got the best percentage and a big amount of games, 59, 31, and 3 as an underdog. As a road dog, he's 41, 28, and 1. So, he thrives in this position. Like you said, I think that defense, they're fresh. They're coming off the bye. Russ has actually looked serviceable. I was a little concerned with the way Russ looked in Denver. I think he's looked a lot better in this offense. They're finding ways to get things done. The ground games looked a lot better. So, I do like this spot too. You just got to contain Jaden Daniels, and I think they'll find a way to get this done. I'm on the Steelers. I mean, the next pick, you can go with yours, but Patty and I are on opposite sides of the next pick. Maybe I'll actually go to one of Patty's picks.
Sure.
Since we're here, we've been on he's got the Cards +1.5. This is one I don't have on my card. I'm not sure if you do.
Cards
are at home. Yeah. So he's getting even better. He can get to +2. I don't have a lot on this game. I think the Cards have played a lot better than people have expected. I think they're on a bit of a run here. They've won a few in a row. They're at home. The Jets, I know they won last week against the Texans, but the Texans were pretty banged up. And we sniffed out that fishy line. Are the Jets getting a little too much respect now because they won one football game? Maybe. But, you're getting a home dog in the Cards, playing good football. I think that run game against the Jets has been really good. James Conner's looked great. I know he's got He's got a finger issue right now. I think he's been limited at practice. I wouldn't worry. Like, that guy's a gamer. He's going to play. And they got other backs too. This Trey Benson, this rookie they got, he's been really solid for them as well. So, I don't mind that spot as the Cardinals. I didn't really have a feel for either side, but Patty is on the Cardinals. We'll give him that +2 for the records, and that's one of his other picks.
Excellent. And you know what? I've got time for Arizona as a home dog. I mean, I do think this is a massive game for the Jets. I mean, like, if they lose, it's just basically back to end the season. They can get to 4 wins and get a little bit of momentum. I'm just trying to quickly, let's pull up the Jets schedule here moving forward. So the Jets now.
I'm going to say, if you like the Jets, like, just play the money line. It's -122. Like, don't worry about those 2 points. Just take the money line.
No, absolutely. So they were 2-1, and then they lost to the Broncos, Vikings, Bills, Steelers, Patriots, beat the Texans, now 3-6 on the season. They could get to 4-6 if they win this game. Then they're home to the Colts, home to the Seahawks, at the Dolphins, at the Jags, home to the Rams, at the Bills, home to the Dolphins. I don't think it's happening for the Jets this year.
We're in that Aaron Rodgers, like, time to run the table. You just never should have been in this position to begin with, Huss. Like, you look at their losses, a 10-9 loss to Denver. You'll be wanting that one back. You lose 3 points to the Patriots. Drake May goes out early in the game. Like, you lost to Jacoby Brissett and the Patriots, who have not been good this season. You pick up a great win against Houston. It's really win-out territory. Like, you're not likely to beat the Bills in Buffalo in Week 17. You got to at least guarantee a split against Miami. I think I'm with you. Like, it's going to be a tough road for them. And if they lose this one to Arizona, I think it's over for them.
Well, exactly. And I mean, we've talked about the potential of Cincy, really going on a bit of a run right now. Pittsburgh's at 6 wins. The Ravens are at 7 wins. The Bills basically have the AFC East all but wrapped up. The Texans are at 6 wins. The Chiefs are there, and both the Chargers and the Broncos are at 5. Listen, I think the Bengals, despite being 4-6, and I know the Jets could get to 3-6, the Bengals have a much better path considering their schedule right now. So I'm sort of with you. And listen, I would have some time for putting in Arizona maybe on a little money line combo. All right, listen, the 3 picks that I mentioned, those are the games that I really like. I struggled a little bit getting the 4th one, but I'm going to go to Germany, and I'm going to take the Panthers. I'm going to take the Panthers +6.5 in this game.
Plug your nose. Plug your nose.
Based on one thing and one thing. First of all, I think that, getting a win the way they did last week, I think that's just huge for Bryce Young, huge for their coach. Listen, they know they're going nowhere this year, but, they're moving forward. And I think they'll have some confidence that they can at least be in and play in some tight games. They actually, the Saints moved the football. They came up big in the red zone. They forced some field goals as opposed to touchdowns. They moved the ball, and then they came back the way they did. So I think it's a big boost for Carolina. And again, basically what this comes down to is that I can't wrap my head around the New York Giants being 6.5-point favorites against literally anybody right now. So do the Giants win? I guess probably. But if you're going to give me 6.5 on anybody playing the New York Giants, I think I'm taking it right now, Jake.
Yeah, Huss, like, that's the one thing I was going to say. Like, what have the Giants shown to deserve to be that big of a favorite against anybody? Like, I know the Panthers haven't been that great, but they, like you said, they're coming off an emotional win. Like, it's one of those things where it's like you can build on something like that. Maybe the Panthers don't go out and pull off another upset, but 6.5 points is a lot. That's one I kind of have a light fishy meter on, because I'm like, I agree with you. Like, in what world are the Giants 6.5-point favorites against anybody in the NFL? They have not proven to be that good of a football team. So we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to play it, but it's one of those ones where it's like, if I were to play it, I think the Panthers make sense to me. 6.5 points is, you know, it's a lot of points for two teams. I'd put on very similar levels, Huss. I don't know if you agree, but
Yeah, well, I mean, they have got the same record.
Well,
They're right at the
exactly.
bottom of the league right now. And as I say, I think the Panthers, considering how rock bottom they were earlier this year, we got a little bit of momentum going in there. I think they'll be somewhat frisky. So yeah, let's throw them on it. So there are my 4 picks. Do you have any others before we? Well, it's 12:50. Let's get to building this, unless you want to quickly fire away.
Yeah, I'll just say the last one. Me and Patty are on opposite sides of this one. He's got the Vikings -7. I'm addicted to betting the Jags. I got him +7. I know it was a miracle they even covered last week. I
2 weeks in a row like that.
Yeah. I just literally wrote down from my notes, I'm addicted to betting the Jags. And as a dog of 3 or more, Trevor Lawrence and the Jags this season, 4-1 against the spread. And they've covered 3 in a row in this spot. So, I don't know. It's just one of those ones where I'm like, I'm just going to ride it till the wheels fall off. I know it's probably not the smartest pick, but I think they can stay competitive in these games. I know that necessarily wasn't the case, but they had a chance to drive and beat Philly. Like, if you go back and watch that game, they were driving. He threw it bad red zone interception that basically sealed the game. But like, if the Jags would have beat Philly last week, what would this number be? Right? I don't know.
Totally.
It might not be 7. So I don't know. I think you're getting a full touchdown with a team like the Jags. I think they're competent. I don't think they're good, but I think they're competent enough to keep it inside a touchdown. So,
well, you just mentioned Philly. I mean, that's why I'm not even touching this game against the Cowboys. Like, 7.5 is a big number to lay on the road. I don't trust this team at all. They'll probably win and keep their record rolling. But again, I don't put them in the class of some of the other teams. All right, well, listen, we may as well lock in this partner parlay. We don't need to spend too much time on this. You and I doing the show. We're doing the heavy lifting. We're in on 3. You know, Dusty will ride with us with the Lions. Patty's in on the Niners. So let's do this, Jake. Detroit -3.5. San Francisco -6.5. And with the Steelers on the 3, I say we take it to +3.5. I mean, it just gives us the opportunity that if they do lose by 3, we're still winning. Those 3, the Steelers at 3.5 is -141. We put those together, it's +518 before the boost. So we'll still have a nice number on this one.
So Niners, Steelers, Lions. That's what we said, right?
Yeah, Niners, Steelers, Lions, and the Steelers, just because we can't have a push, we'll do it at +3.5 for Pittsburgh, and then -3.5 for Detroit, -6.5 for the San Francisco 49ers.
And the one, Huss, the one thing I will say, I just noticed Mark said this in the chat. Lawrence actually looks like he might not play, so it might be Mac Jones. I'm going to hold on my pick. I don't like it as much with Mac Jones, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, I'll hold on the pick, the Jags. I think it makes a little more sense to me why Patty was on the Vikings and why that number is where it is. So yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I got to do a little bit better with the injury report, but I feel pretty good about the 3 that we're on together.
How do you guys have a house caller for us?
Now, he didn't send me one. I have a couple that I like. I don't know if it's something that you and I will build, or maybe we'll text the Lock Shop group and get a couple from them.
Well, who are the 2 that you like?
I like Barkley against the Cowboys. I think that's a big spot. I think he's good under the lights.
What's the
425 game? It's -200. It's not as bad as you'd think.
Okay.
I mean, but we've taken juice like that before with the house callers. The one with a little less juice, I don't mind James Conner. I spoke about him. I think he's going to play. I know he's injured with a finger issue. I don't think he's going to let that stop him. -137 right now against the Jets defense, who has not been good against the run. They've been allowing rushing touchdowns big time over the last few weeks here. So James Conner and Barkley are the 2 that I had in mind.
All right. I'm going with Aaron Jones on the Minnesota Vikings. He, like James Conner, is also at -137. I guess if we do those 3 together, it's at +349. If we want to get one more in, what do we have here in this Atlanta game? How about we add Bijan Robinson?
Bijan?
I'll throw Aaron Jones and Bijan in. You can go with Barkley and James Conner, +628 for the house callers. Each of us taking 2 guys.
It's too bad all this juice we're getting. We're not getting as fun of numbers as we were early in the season. But yeah, I don't mind it. I really like Barkley and Connor, and I think your picks are are solid there too. So we'll roll those 4 for the house callers. I'll get that in our sheet. I'll get the partner parlay ready for the combos. And then if you have like a ride with Huss, you just text me. I know you said you like Steelers maybe to win, so maybe it's a little money line juice. Steelers, Cardinals, and someone else on like a 3-leg money liner.
I know Mark Amph is saying get McCaffrey in there. McCaffrey is at minus 333.
So I couldn't believe it. I was like, we don't even know what his usage is going to be. Like he's coming back in after not playing all season, and it's like, hey, he's scoring a touchdown, minus 333.
He probably will. But yeah, let's just keep it to those 4: Barkley, Connor, Jones, and Bijan, plus 628. So we might get close to 7-1 on the house callers. We'll have that up in the combo cards. And again, the partner parlay as well. I might put together a little money line play, which we'll send in. But anyways, check the exclusives for that. And Winnipeg fans, as soon as it is available, we'll get a little booster up for Bombers Jets combo tomorrow for our Super Saturday here in Winnipeg. Jake, great week, buddy. Lots of fun. We'll stay in touch over the weekend. And again, hit the Coolbet socials. We'll have a play of the day later on, trying to finish well for the week. And exclusives and combo cards for everything we're cranking out of the lock shop for week 10. We don't have picks from Dusty, but I'll maybe tell him to fire out a tweet. He did go 4-0 last week, so if you want to tail him, check out the Twitter feed, and we'll try and get those up. Great stuff. We got a big Winnipeg sports talk coming up. Getting ready for Super Saturday. The mayor of the city is going to come on with me, hype things up a little bit, and let people know the easiest way on the rapid transit to get from Canada Life Center to Princess Auto Stadium in time for the game. I will be taking it. Murata Tesh after jet practice, Ed Tate setting up Bombers riders, Hacksaw, Marbles, and the winners of our Super Saturday contest with Princess Auto, where we'll be sending a lucky fan. We got amazing submissions to both the Jet game and the Bomber game tomorrow. Jake, great stuff as always, man. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, thanks, Huss. Go Leafs.
Yeah, well, we'll give you a win tonight, but 13-1, 14-1 would sound great. Hopefully we can hit that parlay tomorrow. We'll send it back to Maddie and the EST crew. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you Monday back, or I guess Tuesday, back here in the Lock Shop.